On the contrary, the power that money stored up represents is experienced as the final and absolutely satisfying value. For the miser, all other goods lie at the periphery of existence, and from each of them a straight road leads to the center, to money. The whole specific sense of enjoyment and power would be misinterpreted if one were to reverse this direction and wished to lead it back again from the terminal point to the periphery. For the power of the center would be lost as power if it were to be transposed into the enjoyment of specific things. Our essential nature is based on the duality of dominating and serving, and we develop relations and forms that do justice to both these complementary drives in a variety of combinations. In contrast to the power that money confers, the lack of dignity in avarice is well expressed by a poet of the 15th century who stated that whoever serves money is his slave's slave. Actually, avarice is the most sublimated, one could almost say caricatured, form of inner subjugated existence in that it makes us a servant of an indifferent means as if it were the highest purpose. Yet on the other hand, avarice is supported by the most sublimated feeling of power. Here too, money displays its fundamental nature, namely, to permit an equable decisiveness and purest presentation of our antagonistic endeavors. In money, the mind has created a form of the greatest scope which, operating as pure energy, increasingly separates the poles of the mind, the more unified it represents itself, that is, as mere money, which rejects every specific determinateness. It is very characteristic of the mastery that money attained over the general way of thinking that we are accustomed to designating a series of phenomena as avarice, in the sense of greed for money, which in reality are its exact opposite. Such phenomena are manifested in people who use a burned-out match again, who carefully tear off empty letter pages, who don't throw away a piece of string, and who spend a lot of time in searching for every lost pin. We call these people avaricious, because we have grown accustomed to considering the money price of things quite naturally as their value. Actually, however, they do not think of the money value of these objects, rather, the strength of their feeling is applied to the practical value of things, which is not at all proportionately reflected in their money value. In many cases, it is not the fraction of a penny that the thrifty person is concerned to save. Often they have no consideration for the money by which the object itself could be easily replaced, but instead merely value the object itself. In this category belong peculiar, but not altogether rare, people who give away 100 marks without hesitation, but give away a sheet of paper from their writing desk, or something similar, only with true self-conquest. We encounter here the exact opposite of avarice. To the avaricious person, the objects are of no concern, except to the extent that they represent money value, because money has robbed them of their character as ultimate purposes, whereas the behavior of these other people would be totally senseless if it were determined by the money value of things. Yet it can also become unreasonable again by leaving money value completely out of account. Because of the purpose, these people forget the means that would make the purpose attainable, whereas the means make the avaricious person forget the purpose that alone gives significance to the means. Furthermore, there are those phenomena that, although they coincide in their outer form with practical thriftiness, help to clarify further the teleological character of money by the inner divergence from thriftiness. Many thrifty people think it proper that everything that is paid for is also consumed, and even then not only if another necessary expenditure were to be saved, but also in relation to luxury goods which, in the meantime, have proved to be unenjoyable. The purpose has once more not been attained, but in order to make up for the failure another sacrifice is made. This kind of behavior is illustrated by the German proverb, Lieber den Magen während als dem Wirt einen Kreuzer gestient, better to strain your stomach than tip the host. Such behavior, which is taken seriously by many people, is caricatured in the thrifty mother who was teased by her children that she would take the remains of unused medicine after illness in the family, because she did not wish to waste it. In this case, consumption of the object is indifferent or worse than indifferent. The motive for such action cannot be not letting for the expenditure. Money has thus arrived at its next purpose, and with it a feeling of satisfaction and a peak in the teleological sequence is reached, aside from the failure of its subjective final purpose as a thing for itself, which does not diminish that satisfaction. This trivial and basically uninteresting phenomenon reveals a very peculiar teleological constellation of money value. Although it is usually not in evidence in valuable objects, and therefore appears to be bourgeois and insignificant, it is perhaps the most extreme expression of the role of money as an intermediary overgrowing the real final purpose. Not only is the genuine sense of economizing eliminated here as it is in avarice, but also the attraction of power and of the possibilities that enrich the idle possession of money are eliminated. The object, which has lost whatever might have been the meaning and purpose of its consumption, is consumed under conditions of discomfort and harmfulness merely because the money spent has bestowed an absolute value upon it. Not only is the purposive process arrested here by money, but, in addition, it becomes retrogressive and perverse in so far as the valuation, which is purposive in itself, is realized by a procedure directly lacking in purpose. Extravagance. By means of two negative instances, I now want to explore the extent to which money takes on the character of an independent interest beyond its role as a mere intermediary. Extravagance is more closely related to avarice than the opposition of these two phenomena would seem to indicate. It must be noted here that where the primitive economy exists, the thrifty conservation of values is incompatible with their nature, with the very limited transferability of agricultural products. One rarely finds a genuine avaricious hoarding of products if they cannot easily or self-evidently be turned into unlimitedly transferable money. Wherever agricultural products are immediately produced and consumed, a certain generosity often prevails, particularly in relation to guests or to the needy, a generosity that is probably less marked in a money economy, since money can be more easily stored up. Peter the Martyr thus praised the sacks of cocoa that served as money to the ancient Mexicans, because they could not be secretly preserved and hoarded for long periods and therefore prohibited an avaricious attitude. Similarly, natural conditions limit the possibility and the attractiveness of extravagance. Aside from senseless destruction, the limit to lavish consumption and frivolous waste in a group lies in the capacity of its members and strangers for consumption.